Welcome to the Black Writer Studio, a podcast presented by the Hurston Wright Foundation and hosted by Dr. Khadijah Ali-Coleman. The Black Writer Studio is dedicated to showcasing Black writers who are transforming the world today with their literary pen and creating a legacy for the culture. Kymone Freeman is an award-winning playwright with several productions to his credit, including Prison Poetry and Whites Only, An Angry Black Man in Therapy. He is an activist and co-founder and program director of We Act Radio, Washington, D.C.'s independent progressive radio and TV studio. He is also founder and manager of the Charnice Milton Community Bookstore, located east of the river in Washington, D.C. Kymone has won the 2017 Public Radio News Directors Incorporated Award for Commentary and a 22nd Annual Larry Neal Award for Drama. A playwright, outspoken activist, and screenwriter, Kymone Freeman joins us in the Black Writer Studio today. I think you met me when she was a baby, like a little person. So let me just first start off with the fact that I don't think that we have had sit down time together ever in the last 10 or plus years that we've known of each other. I know that I first met you when I was assigned to cover your play, Prison Poetry, for East of the River magazine. Shout out to Capital Community News. And look, I will never forget when I did come out to cover it, how you nicely whispered in my ear to stop taking so many damn pictures with flash.
Oh, wow.
That was actually the first thing you've ever said to me. And I just laughed because I had just gotten my Canon Rebel XTI and I was just taking pictures. But since then, I have witnessed just this remarkable ascension of you. I mean, you already were doing big things then, a playwright, you were doing significant things, spoken word, and but you now are a media mogul, so to speak. I'm
the poorest media mogul in America.
but you are co-owner of We Act Radio in Washington, D.C. In addition to continuing to put out significant works as a playwright. And you have a couple of things that you're going to talk about today that you have in the works. But I actually want to start with where we are right now. What do you have going on writing wise right now? I know you sent me a sample of something written, but I am familiar with this piece as a film. Mm-hmm. And so tell us a little bit what I'm talking about. Let the audience know what I'm talking about.
Okay, but before we do that, African tradition is always to, give it up to our ancestors. And I want to say that Zora Neale Hurston, I try to embody her rebellious beauty. And whenever I see people who also embody that rebellious beauty, I want to acknowledge them. And I wanted to give you some flowers because I think you embody some of that rebellious beauty. And I think you also encompass some of Toni Morrison, because people don't realize that Toni Morrison started out as a publisher. She was an editor for a publisher, and she put out books for other people before she put out her own, so people need to realize that. So it's not the I, what I'm saying? I always like to say me, we. And so my ode to you is from, as I said before, The Betrayal Wears a Pretty Face, Liberated Muse, Volume 2. And this inspired me. It's the piece called Why I May Not Vote Again. I'm paraphrasing. From the heavens, wanting me to just say no, begging me to be patient, promising that salvation will come, but not like this, they said, with puppet strings sewn in so tightly. You nod to tunes I don't know, dancing rhythms I can't match. You ponder and dip to demands of the 99%, but tell me I'm better off for it because it's change. Weaving spinally webs of words that clench at just the right moment. Can't you see that this is not our work? The gods ask, but when I notice, it's too late. And for those who do not know, she's talking about Barack Obama and his historic symbolism. And if you said anything about Obama to this day, it's kind of worn off a little bit, but at its height, you couldn't say nothing about Obama. That was like, denouncing Jesus, And I found courage in those words. I found strength in those words. I agree with the assessment of those words. And those words inspire me to continue to have my voice of resistance. So I wanted to give you some flowers. And so, yeah.
Thank you, Kymone. Thank you so much.
So, and having said that, you remember Nineveh Conflict Over Water as a screenplay, because we did, as I do with most of my work, I do a stage reading, because I think the biggest lesson a writer can have is to hear his work read back to him.
Yes.
I think that I'm a better writer by starting off on stage. I think playwrights have a deeper analysis, because we get the benefit of having actors read those work, and you just hearing that voice gives you something else to work with, as opposed to, because writing is a very lonely craft. In fact, there's another gentleman that was in your book I just quoted, Yahi Labidi, and he says that, first of all, I write because I must, for sanity's sake, but also to share what I perceive of beauty or wisdom, first with myself and later with my readers. To write is to enter a sort of self-induced trance, as in a dream, where we can figure a few things out and somehow drag them back into the waking world. I think that's a great analogy of what the craft of writing is. And I always described it to others in my words would be that writing is very close to insanity, because you have to, sit with yourself and listen to the voices in your head and try to record those voices accurately enough to convince other people that they can hear those voices too.
Wow.
That is a freaky process, And what brought Nineveh a Conflict Over Water about many moons ago, again, as a stage reading, and we even shot a short film of it.
Right. I saw that, but yeah.
Yeah, but we wasn't able to get the resources we had to move it forward at that time. But I spent the summer in Nairobi, 6 weeks, courtesy of the American Friends Service Committee, and I saw, we was prepped, like, don't drink the water. We got to use bottled water to brush your teeth. When you shower, keep your mouth closed. All that. And I was like, what? And there may or may not be hot water. Like, I realized you came confronted with third world living conditions. Like, this is how people live. And I saw people drinking dirty water. I saw that infant babies were given Coca-Cola because it was safer for them to drink that than to drink the water that was made available to the poor people who weren't tapped into the system, who couldn't afford water, couldn't afford clean water. And recently there's a film that's out right now called Don't Look Up.
Right.
And it's a parody on the climate change and the position of American society to be willfully ignorant, conscientious stupidity, what Martin Luther King called it, nothing more dangerous, and how they dealt with this impending crisis. Well, the water crisis is the actual real live comment that we do know that's coming. Right. And after seeing that, and not to let Coca-Cola off the hook, but it takes 6 or 7 times the amount of water to produce the same amount of Coca-Cola, because Coca-Cola in its concentrated form, first of all, is flammable. In its concentrated form, is flammable. Okay. Wow. That's how strong this stuff is. And it takes 6 to 7 parts water to dilute it to make it safe to consume. Okay. So
I never knew that.
Yeah, wow. So Coca-Cola, these corporations, they go into these areas and they consume a lot of water, like Nestle. We know it for chocolate, but Nestle's number one moneymaker is water. And people haven't even realized that we know about the Flint water crisis and similar situation in Detroit, but that's Michigan. Right. Like, they have access to the largest fresh body of water in North America. Possibly the world. but yet you have, so we've seen this. And then, and reason I wanted to specifically give you your flowers for your criticism of Obama, because Obama went to Flint and did some political theater where he drank Flint water. He's coughing through his speech. Could someone bring me some water? You never heard this man cough in any speech in his entire career. He gets to Flint and he starts dry coughing and asks for a glass of water. And then, of course, I never heard a president in my life ever ask for some water, but he does all of this in Flint. And then he says, this is not a publicity stunt. He actually says, this is not a publicity. I actually am thirsty. I'm like, okay, all right, my brother. You know what I'm saying? So that brings us back to where we are now. Mazi Mustafa from the mighty Mazi Mustafa from Words, Beats, and Life, a very strong hip hop curating nonprofit, and also a haven for teaching artists in Washington, D.C. Asked me, like 2 years ago, before the pandemic, actually. He says, yo, Kymone, he read some article about the impending comet that's coming, the water crisis. He said, Kymone, what happened with your water film? Why you ain't do nothing for that? I was like, man, I couldn't get the resource. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do this. He said, well, why don't you just put in a book form and put the book out? And that hit me like bricks, because Mazi, he has hit me with bricks a few times. The first time Mazi hit me with bricks, he was when he first asked me to join Words, Beats, and Life as one of the founding board members. And I was unsure exactly what, that would entail. So he's giving me a ride home and I'm getting out the car and I said, Mazi, just let me know what you need me to do and I got you. And I said that before my first foot hit the ground. He shoots back immediately. He's like, Kymone, I wanted you on the board because I thought you was one of the few people that didn't have to wait to be told what to do. And that, I almost stumbled out the car before my second foot hit the ground. And so he hit me with bricks and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna put in the book form. And I thought initially, oh, I already got the screenplay. I just, put in the book format and do. And then not realizing just how different that muscle is, just how different that medium is. Because definitely. In the film format, you have to be streamlined, to the point. This is what's happening. That's the dialogue. And of course, my strong suit is dialogue. But I had to work on my weakness. I had to then get in colorful detail about what this looks like, and describe the mood and then I had to, provide, background information to explain to you, because I didn't have the virtue of being able to show it to you. I had to explain to you, what is the nature of the problem? How did we get here? Right. I had to set it all up, right. And I'm very proud to say that my protagonist is a woman. And in the words of President Joe Biden, it's a Black woman. I don't explicitly say that because I try to avoid race in the book. I try to paint a world where we are where racism doesn't exist, white supremacy doesn't exist, because I wanted people to understand that even if white supremacy was gone, we would still have the basic problems, because it doesn't answer everything. I think white supremacy has been the dominant doctrine for the past 500 years. I'm not discrediting that. I'm just saying that once we defeat that animal, and it is dying slowly, we would have to deal with a different level of humanity. We will still have conflicts and struggles, and we need to realize. I want us to get our mind on that, because I think Black people spend too much time thinking about what white folks think about what we're doing. I don't think white folks spend too much time thinking about what we, how do you think the Black people will feel about this? I don't think that's an issue for them. But your question was the clip. I think the clip you saw was a confrontation between, I'm sorry, I'm plugging my laptop up here, between Evelyn, the Black woman protagonist that goes unnamed, and one of the antagonists, Kanan, represents the military, but it's all about betrayal. And that was shot on the rooftop of my current business partner's Ruth, and and he's been a great supporter of my work for a long time. And so we're coming to a head here. America's reckoning is coming, and I think that the water crisis is going to be the exclamation point on it. In the next 20 years, half of the planet is not going is going to have water insecurity. And you see it in this country already. There was episodes in California. There was even episodes in Georgia. There are dry rivers right now. Mexico City, for example, is sinking because they have depleted the aquifers that the city was built on. George Bush bought one of the largest aquifers where you don't purchase an aquifer, you purchase the land that the aquifer is housed on. But what happens is he purchased like countless hundreds of acres in Paraguay and has access to the largest aquifer in, I don't know if it's the largest in the world, but I know it's large enough to provide enough fresh water for the planet for 200 years. That's how big it is.
Wow.
George Bush bought, George W. Bush, the war criminal, bought hundreds of acres in Paraguay to access the aquifer. And the aquifer is huge, as you can imagine. It goes across several countries. It doesn't recognize these imaginary boundaries of man. But it's like, it's like a straw. You stick a straw in something, it doesn't matter where you stick it in, you sucking out all the resources from the entire thing, and he has access to that. And people need to realize that they're setting up a game. So if you've seen how they have handled the pandemic, the crisis here in America, where more people have died of COVID than any other country in the world, you can imagine what they would do with the next crisis to enrich themselves. Just like you've seen these big pharma making billions of dollars on these vaccines. No matter how you feel about the vaccines, I just want to make a real footnote that there's a difference between anti-vax and unvax. Okay, there's two different things, there's two different groups, and I'm not messing with these anti-vax people, you know what I'm saying? But if you are unvaxxed, that's your business, but there are billions and billions of dollars been made off vaccines, been sold to rich companies that got 2, 3, some of them got 4 shots, and then you got poor countries who haven't had any access. Why? Because there's no money to be made. They're not sharing it with them. They don't give up. You know what I'm saying? So they showing, corporations are currently showing you how they approach crises. And just like in the film Don't Look Up, they allow the entire planet to be destroyed in the hopes of making trillions of dollars. And then they got in a rocket ship and flew to another planet like Jeff Bezos is trying to do.
Well, I can listen to your thoughts. I know I read them often on social media. I can listen to them all day, because what I find is that a lot of what you speak is often you almost always are referencing the place in which you've read, or you have had first person access to the information that you're sharing. And so my question is, because I know that you're a creative, because you're a playwright, you're a filmmaker, but never have I come across any of your work that isn't so intricately tied with activism. Do you look at your work as an artist as being the lead, what you lead with, or is it you're this activist that uses your art really as a tool and a vehicle to empower or to inform your audience, or are they connected?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the power of art and activism. I don't separate the two. If when I say, enjoy the revolution, I don't think, Emma Goldman said, if I can't dance, it's not my revolution. I don't think revolution is all blood and gory. I don't, Nina Simone said, our artists must reflect the times they live in. I try to reflect the times that I live in, but I also have vision. And Toni Morrison said that she didn't like art that didn't have a purpose, a mission, and that art should be challenging. And so I'm always trying to challenge people to think critically. I think we don't have enough of that. I don't think that we truly analyze information. We kind of just consume it. And I think Black people in particular have made one of the biggest mistakes ever in assuming that our art is solely entertainment. it is not. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the slaves weren't singing in the field to entertain themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They was,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they wasn't beating drums to entertain themselves. You know,
Mm-hmm.
our art and our cultural expressions have always had deeper meanings.
Mm-hmm.
I remember some ignorant rapper. I believe it was Nelly. I'm 90% sure it was Nelly. And he said that he was in hot water about something. He said, why do Black people take music so seriously? It's just music. It's just entertainment. And I'm like, bro, you really don't get it. That's then you know you don't even study your own history. He has no clue, you know, how music has gotten us through. Right. You know, it's gotten us through. You know, I remember everyone has a song that means something to them. Like is when they're like they might not jump up and dance when necessary with that song, but this song comes out, it might make them sit down. It may make them sit in the car until that song is over. It has a different meaning. It has it resonates in their life at some level that is deeper. And one of those songs, I've had several of those songs, but one of those songs I shared with you was Guapale's Closer. You know, I listened to that song on repeat in my headphones every night that I slept alone for those 6 weeks I was in Nairobi. Partially because my roommate snores. but that was the song, a song of choice, because you know why? Because I had just got fired from the post office and I became a writer that summer. I became a writer the summer of 2004 when I realized that a pen was a poor man's weapon. And that you know, Jeff Bezos got a pen like I got a pen. You know, I could say something, you know. Now, of course, you know, maybe only 500 people get to see and hear what I put out, and 500 million will get to see what Jeff Bezos put out, but the record it still stands. You know what I'm saying? The record still stands. And Closer was the song that made me realize that I was pivoting, that it's a rebooting. I'm starting over. I'm turning a new leaf. I'm becoming a new person. And I was close. And I got to keep going this direction. And so to this day, when that song comes on, I have to give thanks. It helped me cross over. That song helped me cross over because, you know, it takes a long time to declare not only to the world, but to yourself, this is who I am. You know, it took, you know, I had to get an award. I had to get a literary award before I could say with confidence to someone, I'm a writer. Wow. If I could look somebody in the eye, I had to wait for that validation. And so my whole point and purpose is to encourage, and I'm glad you provide this platform, and I hope that this message resonates with some of your listeners in your network and those who follow behind us and coming up, that don't wait for that validation. Don't wait for that validation, okay? My first interview when I going into React Radio, different type of writing, still a muscle of writing. My first interview was with the jazz great Gregory Porter. And I asked Gregory Porter, and he didn't know this was my first interview ever. My first interview is Gregory Porter. And I'm talking to the brother, and I said, what was your big break? He said, my big break wasn't when, you know, so-and-so put me on a record, or when I met Stevie Wonder, or, you know, my big break is when I realized that I'm writing all these songs. I'm a songwriter. I love to sing these songs. I'm a singer. You know, he said, that's when I decided this is who I am. That was his big break, his internal affirmation that this is who I am. So if you're writing, guess what? You're a writer. If you are writing, you know what I'm saying? Now the question is, are you writing? Now you got people say, I want to be a writer. Okay, let me read something. Right. So you got to put in the work now. But if you are putting in the work, then you're a writer. Now after that point, the question is, are you a good writer? You know, and that's where the talent comes in. But I think we need to acknowledge that. And whether, you know, like I said, you know, 500 million people get to see and read your work, or 500 people get to see and read your work, you are still what you say you are. I am who I say I am.
Exactly.
And
So,
that was my play. I am who I say I am is a line in prison poetry, by the way. Thank you.
Right. I remember that actually.
Sold out Lincoln Theater. Boom.
Yes. And didn't you do just about every theater in the DC area as well?
Just about.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw it at the Arc. Shout out to Southeast DC.
Yeah. Oh, and then the Arc, it was about you, me, and about 4 other people there for that one. It's kind of hard to get to resonate with the east of the river, but we're still working on that. And
I think you definitely had more than 4 people, but it was in the early days of the Arc. So you definitely, that's again what I speak to, this whole prophetic presence where you really are a tastemaker and engaging in spaces and doing things that, you had a radio station before podcasting was a thing, right?
That's right. And we was doing live stream. We was doing live stream before it was a feature on Facebook and what have you. Like
yes,
in 2011, and the home of Occupy Wall Street and right. Ferguson, and we was there. Both of those, by the way.
Yes, you were.
And you had to have equipment to live stream there.
Yeah, and you in the midst of all the things happening politically before COVID. On the
front line, whenever it's on.
Right. So. I could talk to you for hours, but I do want to close with you giving us of your prophetic power. What are some of the things that are on the horizon for you in terms of your writing? What are some things that you plan to, I would like to know an update on when can we expect to see the book form?
Well, the book, Nineveh Conflict Over Water, is about done. I'm on some of the final draft stages. I've sent it to my editor who's working with me. And then I'm going to process all of that feedback. Of course, I gave it to a couple of friends and I'm waiting to hear their feedback. And so we're looking to start the publishing process in the spring and hopefully get it going. But I have been offered a publishing deal with Strong Arm Press, small independent, obviously publishing house. But it's comforting to know that I do have a deal on the table with Strong Arm Press, and that might be the one I go with because they have presented me an opportunity to put the book out. And I'm no disrespect to those who want to self-publish, but because this work has such political reference and the potential of having a global impact, I want to ensure that this was acknowledged in bookstores. I wanted to make sure that it was eligible to be acknowledged by the powers that be, because there's still some stigma in terms of their judgment of self-publishing. So I wanted to make sure that it was appreciated on the highest level possible, but they have made it possible for me to seek a bigger deal after I sell 10,000. So if I sell 10,000, I graduate to the next level, because the average book sells less than 10,000 copies.
Okay.
And people need to understand that, and that's what my contributing editor is helping me with, is to understand and demystify the options in the book world. But my dream is to work with Hakeem Abutu, who is one of the largest Black publishers in America with Third World Press. I sent him some stuff, a query last year. It was probably completely unprofessional in its form and format, and I think a lot of us are scared to fail and scared to be perceived. I want people to understand that don't let that stop you. It's natural to feel that way. In fact, if your dreams don't scare you, then your dream is not big enough. But don't let no's stop you. I was watching an interview the other day with DC's own Tony Woods, a comedian that was instrumental in Dave Chappelle's early days, and he was talking about, it was at BET, and the producer said that Martin Lawrence wasn't funny and that he needs to go do something else,
Wow.
There was critics who denounced Toni Morrison. The list goes on. Lauryn Hill got booed off the Apollo stage.
Right.
About, I remember the late great Charlie Murphy. God bless Charlie Murphy. He was saying that he called his brother. What's his brother name?
Eddie Murphy.
So he called his brother. And he's like, man, this guy booed, man. I'm bombed, man.
I saw that.
And Eddie Murphy said, what? Man, Richard Pryor bomb. George Jones bomb. Boom, bomb, boom. Don't be calling me with this book.
Right. And hung up on him. I remember that from his
hung up on him. So, if you scared the bomb,
right.
Like I did a one-man show, and that's the next thing. After I put the book down and once it goes to print, I'm focusing on a one-man show called Angry Black Man in Therapy. It's going to be an ode to Bell Hooks. I love Bell Hooks. God bless her. She just joined the Ancestors, but I don't think she got the flowers that she deserves
when she was alive. Right?
When she was alive, so she really is like my liberated muse.
Oh, same here. I love her so much as an educator.
Yeah. So I'm about to do an Angry Black Man in Therapy, an ode to Bell Hooks. And I'm gonna tell my stories, and then when I transition from stories, you will hear some from Bell Hooks. So Bell Hooks is the hook. You know what I'm saying?
I love it.
Stories, and then when I transition, you'll hear something from Hooks, and that reaffirms what I just said or introduces what I'm about to talk about. And
I love that. You remind me so much of what I think of when I think of Ishmael Reed, and so I can't wait. I can't wait to see that.
So I'm about to go hard. I'm building my team. The Black L.U.V Festival is coming back this year.
That's right.
September 18th. We hope to have Toby Ingwe from Hurston there. We hope to have Mamuna Youssef there.
I was going to say the two of them, they have a single together. Yeah.
Trying to get Erykah Badu, the DJ. We ain't got full house performance money.
I wouldn't be surprised if you make it happen somehow.
Well, I'm speaking into existence. I'm speaking, and people understand that you're speaking into existence. Your affirmations is very critical, especially to the writing process. You need to surround yourself with good energy and good people, and a lot of content and information. And part of the writing process, people need to understand is that you don't look at the screen and a blinking cursor waiting for this inspiration. No, at least that's not how I look at it. I feel that you sit down to write when you are bursting from the seams, like your mouth is coming. That's when you sit down to write. When you don't have it, then that means you need to go do some living. You need to do some reading. You need to do some studying. You need to you need to be inspired. How are you going to write? Writing is a form of inspiration. So how are you going to inspire if you haven't been inspired? So, I listen to, I study other writers. I listen to these countless interviews with Toni Morrison and Bell Hooks and people, that inspire me, that puts fire up on me. You know what I'm saying? And that gets me going, and, you were saying like going forward, I want people to realize that we're all very familiar with Martin Luther King's last speech. But many of us are not in his last speech, he dissed Coca-Cola, by the way. I want to, talking about boycotting Coca-Cola, but I just want to throw that out there. A through line in theater, I tied it into an earlier statement. But his next to his last speech was given right here in Washington, D.C., March 31st, 1968. And he goes on this, and it was entitled Remaining Awake During a Great Revolution. And he goes on to say that far too often people find themselves living in periods of great social change, but yet they seem to fail to develop the new ideas and new mental responses that the new situation demands. They end up sleeping through a revolution. And I think that is the very definition of stay woke. But they try to turn stay woke into a pejorative. When we say that normal wasn't working for everybody, they look at you like you're crazy. And they say, so these things, it's like Humpty Dumpty has fell down and all the king's men is not going to be able to put it back together again. So it's March 13th, 2020, nothing will ever be the same. And we get to have an opportunity to have some input on where we go from here. Because Martin Luther King's last book is, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? And so he also said that prepare to participate. So we all have to do something. We're not going to, like Gil Scott-Heron said, that we're not going to be able to sit at home because the revolution is not going to be televised. It means you're not going to be able to watch it. People think it's just about the box. He said it's not going to be televised, which means you're not going to be able to watch it. You're going to be in it. The revolution will be live.
Right.
And you've seen how this pandemic, this crisis has touched everyone all around the world. Of course, to various degrees, but it has been touched. Now, you would think that would get everybody on the same page, but not in America. It just shows you where the divisions were and where the cracks were. You know, and I tell people all the time, you know, the pandemic was the first time poor people got a vacation. First time they got the opportunity to sit down and think. You know, because there's a popular saying in DC that, oh, you can't get nothing done in August because, you know, everybody's on vacation. I'm like, everybody's not on vacation. Right. You mean the upper class. The UPS man didn't take a vacation to the Bahamas with his family. He ain't in freaking what is that? Martha's Vineyard. You know, this man gotta work.
Right. You know, so I don't even know where to end with you, because every conversation with you is fodder to chew on. But I want our audience to do something, and I really want them to support your work. I want them to find the things that they have that they can access online or purchase. Can you give us the details on how folks can support you, where they can purchase your latest work? I know a lot of your work is, you know, our plays and things, you know, visuals, things that folks have to do something right and get out the house and go see. But what are some ways that they can support your work right now? Whether it's the radio station or your books?
Well, by all means, follow We Act Radio on all relevant social media. That's We ACT Radio. Do something. But for those who want to monetarily support us, the Black L.U.V Festival has a tax deductible donation fund right now, crowdfund. That's Black L.U.V. That's Love L-U-V, Black L-U-V Fest. I believe it's .com or .info. Just go to .com, blackluvefest.com, because we got one for a campaign for the Charnice Milton Community Bookstore. We're trying to address the literacy crisis here.
Right.
DC has a higher illiteracy rate than the national average. And there's a direct correlation between violence, crime, and illiteracy. So if you want to get tough on crime, we need to get tough on literacy. And I think it's incumbent upon the writers to pick up this mantle to espouse literacy, because we need to understand that literacy is not, you know, these kids can read, you know, the words on the paper, but then you ask them, you know, read this article, tell me what you think. They have no comprehension. That's illiteracy. If you don't understand what you just read, then we are not effectively communicating in the literary space, which means you are illiterate. You are functionally illiterate.
So this bookstore exists in your radio station, right?
But yeah, we collect books at We Act Radio, and we partner with Busboys and Poets in the Anacostia location. All of this on the radical side of Martin King Avenue in the Anacostia, on the Bella Nation's capital. And we've so far distributed over 2,000 books free, sold a couple hundred as a used bookstore in a partnership with Busboys, Charnice Milton Community Bookstore. And then we also have a free library on the corner of Malcolm X and Martin King Avenue, which has been labeled the blackest intersection in America, which I had a problem with, because the only thing that was there was liquor stores and chicken. You know what I'm saying? And so unfortunately, we had one shooting too many. Well, a child was killed, and there's a beautiful mural created by Nia Khan. And so I wanted to put some literacy in that space. And so it's a quote by Malcolm X that says, people don't understand, people don't recognize how one book can change a man's life. One book. And so it's that, you know, trying to match the right book with the right person to have that transformative experience. Because I tell people there's nothing more transformational than traveling. I had to go to Kenya. I had to go to Nairobi. I had to spend the longest amount of time outside of America. The longest time I spent outside America, before or since 6 weeks, I have not been outside the country for that length of time. And I look forward to doing it again. And it changed my thinking. It changed my thinking. But everyone doesn't have that, are not afforded that opportunity. The next best thing to have a transformational experience is reading.
Yep. So, you know, Kymone Freeman.
Angry Black Man in Therapy.
No, look, he's a playwright. He's a book author. He is the founder of a bookstore, co-founder of a radio station, environmental activist, historian, everything that you can possibly imagine a person to be in terms of advocating for humanity. I am so honored to have had you here on this podcast today. And I think that this will probably be the first and hopefully a long line of interactions that you and I will have, if not through this podcast, in other ways. I am just so incredibly always thrilled to have the opportunity to interview you. And I thank you so much for being part of the Black Writer Studio today.
I want to thank you so much for sharing your platform with the radical voices. I want to thank you for all the work that you've done in contributing an independent path going forward. Congratulations on your new appointment. I have so much respect for the organization simply because they have chosen you.
Oh, wow.
And I always admired that they chose the name Hurston and Wright. And a lot of people don't realize the significance of that because Wright was a big critic of Hurston.
Yes.
And I remember something that Bell Hooks says, and she says, family is here to teach us how to love people we don't like. We all got to work together to move forward. Not that we don't have enemies. Right. But we all had jobs with people that we didn't like everybody. That didn't stop the work being done. So let's apply that to our daily lives of us moving forward. And in that spirit, I want to say again, blacklovefest.com is how people can support the work that we're doing. That's Black L.U.V. Fest, FEST.com. And thank you. God bless you. Stay strong, stay safe, stay woke, and enjoy the revolution.
Oh, and that's a wrap. Thank you, Kymone.